Ever feel like you are sprinting in all directions like a headless chicken, solving problem after problem, only to realize nothing's actually fixed, and the chaos just keeps mutating? Just more exhausted, less cash, still stuck. What if the issue isn't your team, not your effort, not even the market? What if the real saboteur is your own brain? Welcome to the illusion of knowing, the most seductive and expensive mental trap in business. It's what makes smart leaders solve the wrong problems, implement surface fixes, and burn through time, money, and energy while staying stuck in chaos. In part 1 of this deep dive mini course, we are not offering surface level hacks. We are going into the why your brain jumps to conclusions, why complexity gets oversimplified, why smart people get stuck chasing symptoms. Psychological quicksand, superficial knowledge, cultural groupthink, cognitive biases, it's all here. Because the first brutal step to real progress, seeing how you've been thinking wrong. Let's unlearn the noise and start solving what actually matters. This is Unbound Mind. Let's go.
Unbound Mind. Part 1. Setting the stage. Business Holics Anonymous.
Meet the third wave of stuck and exhausted business owners at Business Holics Anonymous. The facilitator, Sarah, scans the room. Some glued to their phones, a few mid-call, couple drowning in Slack notifications. Same chaos, different faces. She knows the drill. She's heard it all before. Having taken a long breath, she was ready to start the session with a round of introduction. Who wants to start? A blonde woman looks up from behind her laptop.
The Headless Chicken Syndrome.
My name is Mary.
She says quietly.
I run a beauty business. My business is doing all right, I suppose. It's just me who is a nervous wreck. I fear every Monday morning, as I don't even know what to expect. Take last week, for example. Monday, damaged shipment. Tuesday, 2 staff off sick. Wednesday, website crash mid-sale. Thursday, a viral bad review. Friday, payroll panic. This isn't my first year. I know what to do. Every solution is tried and tested. Yet every morning begins with a new emergency. Every time, it's about money, time, and human resources. My calendar is packed with meetings. My inbox overflowed with urgent requests. And my team constantly needs guidance on new issues cropping up left and right. We're busy. We're working hard. And we're burning through cash faster than expected. Honestly, I don't even know why I started this damn business. Don't get me wrong, I love what I do. But running a business feels more like running like a headless chicken.
Sarah listens. She's been Mary.
Here's the thing. You're not failing because you don't know what to do. You're failing because you think you do. When was the last time you asked why?
Sarah suddenly wondered. The question hung in the air like an albatross.
You see, we don't chase best practices because they work. We chase them because we think we know what the problem is. But most of us never stop to ask if our diagnosis is even real.
Then she reaches for a small Matryoshka doll.
Look, this is your business. Every layer is an assumption, a symptom, a surface fix. We treat what we see. We stop at the first layer, mistaking symptoms for problems. But you have to keep opening, keep looking deeper.
She began to unpack the dolls one by one.
The real problem, always hidden, always beneath what we think we know. Assuming the outer layer is all there is, that is the illusion. There is so much focus given to treating symptoms, trying to fix problems through trial and error. Everybody offers the latest best practice as a cure-all. But that's like playing a game of whack-a-mole. Problem pops up, whack it down. Another one, whack again. But the underlying issues remain untouched, while our efforts and resources are already exhausted. And when we finally decide to course correct, often it's already too late. You can keep pouring water into a bucket with a hole, or you can fix the hole. Quick fixes don't build businesses, they just delay the inevitable. And this deeper issue drags your business down. And sometimes the bravest move, admitting you've been holding the wrong bucket all along.
It's not what we don't know that ruins us. It's what we think we know that just isn't so.
Your business isn't broken because you're clueless. Well, if you are, well, obviously not you. It's struggling because you've been overconfident in the wrong answers. Mary isn't unique. She's what happens when we confuse knowing with understanding.
Coming up next.
Game on.
Let's play a little game. It's called The Greatest Hits of Psychological Gaslighting, now with extra K. I'll pair up some common problems and solutions. For every pair you've heard of, give yourself 1 point. For every pair you believe in, give yourself 2 points. For every pair you've actually tried, give yourself 3 points and a pat on the back. Let's see how deep the delusion runs. Let's start with anxiety. Apparently, you can address it through regular exercise, healthy diet, and stress management. That brings us to stress. Obviously, regular exercise, healthy diet, of course, connect with others, and saying no more often. No-brainer. Like, these are really easy things to do. Then comes depression. Cure all regular exercise, think positive, get out more, and practice gratitude. Just curious, have those people who recommend this ever been clinically depressed? I was. And from what I remember, regular exercise and positivity were the last things on my mind. Actually, all three are born out of uncontrolled thought patterns and various factors in brain function. Alas, a salad won't help. The next on the list is procrastination. So what do you do here? We break down large tasks, avoid distraction, and set realistic goals. That's important. Well, it doesn't really matter that procrastination is mental. It isn't behavioral. Low self-esteem, positive affirmations, self-care, fake confidence, including a power pose, I believe, and obviously blame parents. According to the latest trends, you can actually blame them for everything. It's pretty universal and makes it so much easier. No responsibility whatsoever. And the last but not least, burnout. So it's about self-care. Agreed, generally it's important. Set boundaries and rediscover activities you enjoy while in burnout. Okay, the rant is overish. Biting my lips here, but then I guess superficial advice isn't supposed to be realistic. It's supposed to be quick and easy. You know what? I don't think I can handle the second part. Let's switch gears before I lose it. Meet Pete. Pete is a business guru, LinkedIn thought leader, self-proclaimed game changer. He's got solutions because obviously everything is just one hack away.
Thanks for having me, Aaron. Let's optimize some problems, shall we? High employee turnover? Easy. Free beers on Fridays and a no suits policy. Culture is fixed. Declining sales leads? Just boost SEO, chuck money at ads, and slap a new hero image on the homepage. Magic! Poor customer retention? Loyalty program. Because honestly, what else screams we care like a free coffee after 12 purchases? Stagnant innovation? Host a brainstorming session with Post-it. Innovation, no problems. Poor communication? New messaging platform. Bonus points if it pings every 3 minutes. Low productivity? Throw in a new AI workflow tool.
Sure, the problem is the software, not Susan's 14-hour working days.
Sales dropped? Flash sale, rebrand, and maybe a logo that looks more modern. All sorted.
Thanks, Pete. My sanity owes you one.
Appreciate the spotlight, Aaron. Always a pleasure to help you folks.
Unbound mind.
All right, tally up your points. Now, what do you do with them? Nothing. Because these points are as meaningless as the solutions in this game. Temporary, useless, and a distraction from the real issue. If you are polishing the surface, you are not solving anything. You are just buying time before the cracks get bigger. It's like building a house on sand and hoping the paint job makes it sturdier. So, what's the real solution? We'll get to that. But it won't be superficial. Because no real problem is superficial. What you see, feel, or perceive are just symptoms. Actually, this is a good little assessment to keep in mind. If your problem or feeling is obvious, it's still just a symptom. Don't waste your time, money, or motivation solving what you can see. It's useless by definition. Dig deeper.
Part 2.
So, let's dive into the real consequences of the illusion of knowing. And they aren't pretty.
Unbound mind.
Unwanted consequences.
You might be surprised by this, but obsessing over how to without ever asking why is the real threat to your business. Because tactical patch-ups can't fix structural rot. And the price you pay, honestly, it's brutal. Wasted time, money, suffering sales, performance, effectiveness, and morale. Falling behind competitors who actually look under the hood. And from here, it gets only worse.
Trust erodes, customers vanish, staff get burned out and bounce, productivity drops, turnover spikes, costs explode.
Actually, everything you dread comes from overindulging in quick fixes, and all you are doing is reacting. And yet, the issue remains exactly where it used to be. It's like putting a band-aid on an ulcer. It covers nothing, treats nothing, and delays the real diagnosis.
Unbound mind.
Imagine you're unwell. You go to a doctor. Sorry, wrong image. Here's the right one. No tests, just a prescription. If it works, great. If it doesn't, try another one. Months later, you're worse off. The root cause is still there, but now you're also dealing with side effects. That's exactly what happens in business. Quick fixes make it look like progress. You are constantly implementing something. You are constantly improving, but underneath, things are festering. And here, where it gets weird. The more we know, the less we see. And the less we properly see, the less we understand. Every so-called truth you cling to might be the very reason why you're stuck.
Part 3.
The famous why. Superficiality culture.
Let's be honest. When nobody's paying attention anymore, bullshit gets loud, real loud, even if it's clueless. We start following the loudest voice, not the smartest one. That's how you get people selling 7-figure strategies while barely being able to count past 10. Not kidding. A quarter of adults in rich countries and over a third in the US can't even evaluate a basic statement using math. Falling PISA scores, rising reports of cognitive difficulties, struggles with basic numeracy and literacy. Welcome to the new reality of questionable intelligence. Not because we're biologically broken, but because we're giving away our will and capacity to use our brains. We outsource our ability to reason, focus, and solve problems to a never-ending scroll. We give up reasoning for superficial, often mediocre advice. No wonder businesses are ingesting best practices like zombies. As a result, a society hooked on superficiality, and businesses clinging to quick surface fixes like gospel. Mediocrity spreads faster than the flu, and unless you're wearing a mental mask, you will catch it. Speaking of trash advice.
This video is brought to you by Copium, for when your favorite guru's foolproof system inevitably explodes. Code THINK for yourself for 10% off your cope.
Today, we are dissecting how superficiality culture, herd mentality, and our own brains team up to ruin good decisions. Buckle up.
Coming up next.
Mediocrity isn't an accident. It's what happens when cognitive decline meets viral content. Ever notice how businesses just copy each other? Same homepage, same tactics, same funnel templates, same trendy color palette. How is it even possible? No one asks if it even makes sense for them or their customers. We adopt conventional wisdom even when it's flawed. We never question. Instead, we choose external validation, even if it hurts the business. It's like showing up to a concert you can't stand just because it's trending. You hate the music, but hey, your mates are there, the influencer said it's vibe, and now you're fake smiling like it was the best night of your life. Social proof? Hey, business isn't any different. We copy what works for someone else and expect it to magically work for us. Never mind that we've got a completely different audience, offer, or brain. Just because the world's obsessed with Taylor Swift doesn't mean it's the right tune for your business. And a side note, why is she actually considered to be good anyway? From the moment you start a business, you are hit with a tidal wave of best practices, aka must-dos, to succeed. SEO this, funnel that, post daily, hustle harder. Don't forget a CTA. It's like it really matters. It's overwhelming. And because everyone's doing it, you assume it must be right. So you follow the crowd until you realize you are sprinting full speed on the treadmill, going nowhere. And you know what? Most of us never ask why. Not in business, not in life. We've been trained to chase validation, not truth. School reward the right answer, not the best question. Companies reward execution, not deep thinking. Society rewards fitting in, not standing out. So, of course, if your environment teaches you that certainty equals competence, then questioning your own thinking feels like self-sabotage. This is why so many business owners default to tactics over strategy. Tactics give immediate, measurable results, while strategy requires patience and, God forbids, thinking. You question assumption because you value depth. Most people don't, because they were never rewarded for it. But hey, if you love wasting time on trends that don't work, ignore everything I've just said. For everyone else, let's talk about why we fall for this.
The pottery cave.
Nestled beneath a mountain lay a village of potters, renowned artisans who crafted intricate pieces deep inside a cave. Lit only by torches, they lived and worked in isolation, proud of their creations and content with their unchanging world.
Why leave? They'd ask.
This is all we've ever known. One day, a traveler stumbled upon their cave, observing their work. While impressed by the skill, he noticed the uniformity and the pervasive darkness.
This is good, he remarked gently, holding up a pot. But have you ever thought about stepping outside? The potters laughed.
What's out there that we lack? A world of color, texture, and inspiration beyond your imagining.
The traveler replied. It could elevate your craft.
Intrigued, a young artisan followed him. Emerging from the cave, he was overwhelmed by sunlight, then captivated by the vibrant landscape. Trees, rivers, a sky that looks like a painting. Returning to the cave, he excitedly described the beauty he'd witnessed.
But instead of curiosity, the other potters reacted defensively. Are you saying our work is worthless? Are you calling us failures? No, he responded. I'm saying we've only scratched the surface. We can create something even greater.
Unbound mind.
You know, when I was writing the script, I kind of felt sorry for our brains. There are so many things they have to fight through to protect us from conformity. Today, like that young artisan, we will only scratch the surface. The world of understanding is fascinatingly challenging, and if it rocks your boat, you can find more information on this channel or in my newsletter in the making, in exchange for taking the first step towards strategy mindset.
Superficiality culture.
The first tensions between depth and superficiality traces back to Plato. And yet, Nietzsche thought that Greeks were superficial out of profundity, as a creative veil over life suffering, poetic. If Greeks were superficial, I wonder What would Nietzsche say had he come across TikTok Reels, LinkedIn endless clapping, and OnlyFans bursting creativity not going to demonstrate? He'd probably lose it. Conspicuous consumption, industrialization, and mass culture. Consumerism, materialism, and cultural narcissism that progressed from yuppies to our self-obsession. It's like us ranging never stops. Now we've got the attention economy. It's the Baba Yaga of superficiality. Attention economy is all about content that is immediately grabbing, visually appealing, emotionally provocative, and quickly implementable. Stuff that is easy to digest and even easier to forget. Content hooks, title clickbaits, inadequate facial expressions on YouTube thumbnails, endless how-tos, and the cherry on the cake. 3 easy steps to get rich, lose weight, find a partner, fill in the blank, and whatever comes to mind, and you won't be wrong. And what does all this fast content actually do to us? In life, more stress, more anxiety, more insecurity, depression, broken relationship, debt goes up, authenticity down, cognitive abilities vanished like never existed. Ignorant activism is on the rise, while everyone's still pretending they're living their best lives. In business, all style, no substance. Shallow innovation, lazy hiring, surface-level reviews, short-term gains, quick fixes, image management, burnout, disengagement. And here is the data. Time is wasted, strategies collapsed, and efficiency reduced. Managers who chase short-term wins, they bleed talent and destroy process quality. Superficiality is costing us big time. And now, the irony of all ironies. Honestly, I love it. We turn to superficiality, listen carefully. We turn to superficiality to escape stress and uncertainty. It's actually called superficial coping, like toxic positivity, social media, performative work. As the result, we are gaining more stress, anxiety, and depression by failing to address root causes, creating a vicious cycle. Cognitive therapists, especially in CBT, use mindfulness and confronting uncomfortable truth to break this cycle, forcing engagement with reality. Basically, to recover, we need to do the exact opposite of what we're trying so hard to escape. Makes zero sense, right? Anyway, if you want to go deeper into escapism and avoidance, check out the emotional comfort and cognitive ease videos on this channel. Superficiality on its own is annoying, sure, but pair it with herd mentality, social proof, and cultural conditioning, and boom, you've got the 4 horsemen of dumb decisions. Mark Twain had it right.
Whenever you find yourself on the side of the majority, it's time to pause and reflect.
So here's how it happens.
Herd mentality, social proof, and social conditioning.
You grow up in a system that trains you, quietly and persistently, to accept whatever the group believes. You internalize it. It becomes your normal herd standards of behavior that we irrationally believe we should follow. Pay attention to the words irrationally believe and should. These are crucial in conditioning. We don't question, we don't rock the boat. We do what they do. Who's they? Everyone. Our mates, our parents, our managers, the people we don't know but follow on LinkedIn. We assume that this is how it is. And we aren't the only ones. And this is where it gets disturbing. Ash experiments, the guy was a pioneer in the field of social psychology, showed that 75% of people will give a wrong answer they know is wrong just to fit with the crowd. Now imagine starting a business from that conditioning. You only do if your inner programming says, yes, this is okay. And when things inevitably go to hell, and they eventually will, you don't stop and think, No to root cause analysis, no to brainstorming possible solution, no to issue mitigation scenarios, no to switching on critical thinking. Still relevant to those 30-50%, according to research, hasn't lost this ability yet? Nope. You quick fix it, like pretty much everyone else does, in line with herd norms. And where do we go when we need a solution? Social proof. Quick search for top video, audio, or written advice. We assume popularity equals quality. We ignore our judgment and follow the choices of others, assuming they know better. But in reality, it's often just a reflection of common knowledge or borrowed ideas recycled from the same influencers, podcasters, and content hubs. And if you do manage to raise an eyebrow at this herd, don't worry. They'll throw a shiny quote at you from someone with 100,000 followers. That should silence your doubts, right? Well, if they all say the same thing, it must be right? Not really. Just herd mentality and social proof, our need for certainty, safety, belonging, or validation, playing a trick on you. Most experts you are following, they are shaped by the same superficial culture. So, guess what kind of advice they're giving you? Yep. Superficial problems, superficial solutions, superficial results. Brilliant. Everybody wins. Or not. First, the more we consume low-effort content, the worse our focus gets, as per the Financial Times data. The worse our focus, the more we crave quick fixes, and down the drain we go. Second, even if the advice sounds solid, the moment it overrides your own thinking, red flag. You've just outsourced your brain. Here is what the data says. Performance and innovation are down. Productivity drops. Strategic moves and investments fail. Herd thinking looks safe, but it's quietly expensive and it's bloody boring.
Unbound mind.
Conditioning, social proof, herd mentality, yeah, they're big. But they're not the whole circus. Your brain's also dealing with the bandwagon effect, authority bias, confirmation bias, hello effect. Basically, your brain is under attack from a full-on psychological rave 24/7.
Psychological rave intro for curious.
Bandwagon effect.
Everyone's doing it, so it must be right. Said every lemming ever.
Authority bias.
Because a guy in a Lamborghini said it, so it must be true. And only $4,997 to find out how.
Confirmation bias.
Only listening to facts that already agree with your brilliant opinion.
Halo effect.
Hot, popular, and verified, clearly qualified to give life advice.
Curious what else messes with your decision making? What can I say? Subscribe to this channel. JFK once said,
"Conformity is the jailer of freedom and the enemy of growth."
And yet, here we are, locked up and calling it best practice. This isn't theory, it's happening every day. Conformity kills your edge. It flattens individuality, creativity, originality, innovation, strategy, critical thinking. Businesses burn millions on advice that has no idea who you are, what you offer, or what your audience actually wants. And still, we keep on following generic advice, not because it works, but because thinking costs time and energy, and both are in short supply. Now, I'm not naive. I know not everyone's willing to break free from conformity. For most of us, it isn't even aspirational. But if you are still watching this, I'm guessing that's not you. So, hear what I suggest. If you don't want to be part of the herd racing toward collective mediocrity, question your own thinking relentlessly. Double-check every piece of advice you get online, including mine. Audit your content diet like your health depends on it, and it does. Build environments that reward depth, not just output. Demand proof, not popularity. And remember, in a world racing toward the bottom of critical thought, the ones who think win. Or you could just go binge another 3 easy ways to grow rich reel. Your call. Still here? You officially leveled up your cognitive immune system. Go grab a snack. You earn it.
Unbound mind.
Cognitive ease.
Forget just sugar and sex. Our brains have other powerful magnets. Cognitive ease, if it feels smooth, we trust it. Mental shortcuts, also known as heuristics, if you want to sound clever over dinner. They make everyday decision-making easier. And in high-stakes environments like business or medicine, these shortcuts cost lives and millions. 25% of diagnostic errors in hospitals happen because doctors assume symptoms match the usual pattern. They don't stop to ask, what if it's not that? Simply because the easiest option doesn't necessarily mean the best, but often means the quickest and the readily available. And this is how it plays out in business. Sales dropping? Run a promotion. Staff leaving? Offer salary increase. Quality issues? Oh, blame the machine. Morale low? Get a motivational speaker or a pizza. Customer complaints? Throw a discount. Poor leadership? Book a corporate trainer. Congrats, you've just replaced thinking with reflex. It feels smart, it feels productive, it even looks like leadership. But it's not. It's your brain doing the business version of Netflix and chill. Quick fixes sell themselves as simple steps and instant wins. They feel like progress, but they're not. They just have better PR. What's one reflex decision you've made lately? No judgment, just pill. You see, the problem is that, opting for quick fixes, we don't realize that with time, they erode our businesses. And even if we do, often it's already too late. Kahneman and Tversky figured this out back in the 70s. They call this mental traps heuristics. They were so spot on that Kahneman scored a Nobel Prize in economics, a rare honor for a psychologist. Tversky didn't. Sadly, he died before he could. The brain is lazy, but the fate is cruel. So, here is your cheat code. The easier a solution feels, the more dangerous it probably is. Real solutions feel scary. They feel complicated, they are uncomfortable, and they make you sweat before they work. So, next time it feels too smooth, assume it's wrong. Go deeper, or enjoy your future TED Talk how I blew 20 million on surface fixes. If you want to stop slapping band-aids on bullet wounds, watch the full playlist. And there's also a newsletter brewing. You'll get the full strategy toolkit, frameworks, and mindset reboot straight to your inbox. If you are serious about building smart, not just fast, get on it.
Unbound mind.
The Ostrich Effect.
Back in 2016, Galaxy Note 7 was literally catching fire. First obvious response was to replace the batteries and hope for the best. Why bother digging deeper when there's a shortcut? Because our brains hate uncomfortable truth even more than they hate losing billions. And this isn't new. The Greeks were all over this back in the day. They figured out our basic motivation, seeking pleasure and avoiding pain. But it didn't stop there. Freud came next, because of course he did, saying we avoid hard truth to protect our fragile little egos. Then Festinger drops cognitive dissonance theory. Bottom line, our brains don't like to feel wrong. It messes with our ego. So instead of fixing the problem, we fix the feeling. So what do we do to feel better? We often avoid the conflicting truth, even when ignoring it is obvious, risky, or dangerous. Check this out. 45% of people use avoidance strategies. 35% of those lead to problems that never get solved. Emotional comfort, sure, it costs stress short-term, but increases long-term problem persistence by 25%. In business, 40% of employees avoid team dysfunction. That slashes productivity by 20%. Don't take me wrong, emotional comfort does feel good, so let's not open a Pandora's box. But long term, it can be brutal. While we blissfully believe that we take care of our emotional well-being, loads of other issues sneak in ninja style to screw us over. Procrastination, chronic stress, vulnerability to life stresses, well, to life itself, emotional suppression, depression, and in Samsung case, a cool 22 billion. Temporary avoidance is like painkillers, useful in doses and in crisis, but dangerous as a diet.
Unbound mind.
Plunging in and premature closure biases.
Imagine going to a doctor who jumps to a diagnosis before asking any real questions. You get your diagnosis, you get the meds, you get surgery, in this particular case, maybe even a bonus date. And off you go. But here is the thing. This doc doesn't like ambiguity or inaction, especially under pressure. Oh, and their bonus depends on how quickly they move patients through. Around 371,000 deaths and 424,000 permanent disabilities a year in the US from rushed diagnoses. Still feeling confident on that operating table? Yeah, this is exactly what businesses do all the time. No proper problem formulation, no strategic planning, no risk mitigation scenarios. But rushed conclusions, just panic mistaken for decisiveness. The cost is huge, failed projects, strategic initiatives, and engineering solutions. And these things are really big, still for the same two reasons. No proper problem definition and agreeing on a solution too fast. In business, this shows up in 4 ways. We assume we get the problem. We trust our assumption without checking it. We grab the first idea that sounds halfway clever and we fix it fast because trial and error sounds bold and sadly so well promoted. The latter actually is my favorite. Let's just toss cash, time and morale at something and see if it breaks. Can't get any better than this. And here is a stat that even I had to double take on. 35% of business school case studies reinforce this bias. The golden standard of business education teaches people to fix things before figuring out what's actually broken. Look, in a crisis, sure, speed matters, but in business, speed is often an excuse to avoid thinking. Boeing rush to compete cost 346 lives, an estimate of 31 billion in costs. Coke launched new Coke, dumped it in 79 days, spent around 13 million to launch it, lost over 100 million in brand damage. All because move fast overruled think deep. They simply didn't slow down to ask better questions. You can't solve what you don't understand. And you can't understand what you've never defined. This is exactly why I created the Illusion of Knowing playlist, to unpack the sneaky mental shortcuts that cost businesses time, money, and sometimes health. If you are serious about making better decisions in business, I'm sharing a no BS strategy toolkit. Drop your mail and get the clarity your business deserves. It's for humans who'd rather face truth than waste millions.
Unbound mind.
So, jumping into solving a problem without fully understanding it or exploring alternative solutions may cost you a business, a patient life, or an innocent freedom. In law enforcement, it's called tunnel vision, where investigators fixate on one subject and ignore other evidence. People have literally got jailed because someone jumped to the wrong conclusion. Fast answers feel powerful, But if you solved the wrong problem, you are not moving forward. You are just rushing in circles and you only make the matter worse.
Unbound mind.
The Dunning-Kruger Effect and the 4 stages of competence.
He robbed a bank with the lemon juice on his face because he thought it would make him invisible to cameras. Not joking. His name was MacArthur Wheeler, and in 1995 he confidently walked into 2 Pittsburgh banks thinking he hacked the security system with fruit juice. But here is what even more absurd. He wasn't just wrong. He was confidently wrong. That paradox lit a fire under 2 social psychologists, David Dunning and Justin Kruger. They were intrigued by the sheer confidence the lemon juice bank robber displayed in the face of such profound incompetence. There is a saying, a little knowledge is a dangerous thing, and the Dunning-Kruger research proved just that. Competent people usually know their limits. In fact, they often underestimate how good they are, especially when surrounded by mediocrity. But the incompetent, they do the exact opposite. They wildly overestimate their abilities, can't spot the real expertise in others, and have no clue what they're missing. It's not just that they don't know, it's that they don't know that they don't know. And to make things worse, our egos actively block any kind of honest self-examination. So we cling to ideas that fit our narrative, reinforcing our own flawed thinking instead of challenging it. It's not just poor judgment, it's a feedback loop. Just look at the numbers. 78% of new retail traders think they're outperforming the market. 90% of them actually lose money. Why? Because metacognition, the ability to reflect on your own thinking, is rare. Without it, we don't even realize we're making poor decisions. As such, how can we fix them?
Unbound mind.
Side fact: Herbert Simon, a pioneer in decision-making research, came up with the concept of bounded rationality. This is when we make and evaluate decisions within the limits of what we know and how well we can think. The problem: we don't know how much we know and how limited our thinking really is. And that's where it overlaps with the confidence trap. Because when our skill is low, so is our ability to recognize the gap.
Unbound mind.
Just think about it. We wouldn't try electrical work or plumbing without proper training. We don't believe we can be hired as a chef without knowing how to boil water. But somehow, we think we're naturally God-gifted CEOs the moment we start our business. Just because we've read a how-to article or listened to a few business podcasts doesn't mean we are ready to run a Fortune 500 company, unless, of course, our goal is to build a series of well-intentioned mistakes. That's like thinking you can do heart surgery because you watched Grey's Anatomy. Same logic applies to parenting, by the way. No experience, no research, no awareness, no clue. But hey, we made a baby, so we're natural. A couple of years later, can somebody fix my baby, please? Or the classic, gets a dog, doesn't train it, blames the dog for chewing the sofa. Same delusion. And don't even get me started on business influencers who preach strategy without knowing the difference between strategy and tactics. All right, rant over, sort of. Let's shift gears and talk about why this keeps happening. Easy. Our brains crave certainty. Uncertainty scares us. When we think we know something, we feel safe. And when something feels right, we cling to it no matter how wrong it is. But this illusion keeps us from growing because we stop questioning and start assuming. You see, ignorance isn't a flaw, unwillingness to learn is.
Unbound mind.
But before I let you off the hook, let's map this out. There is a pattern. the 4 stages of learning and the Mount Stupid concept. The first one is often attributed to Noel Burge, and the second one to internet creativity, which doesn't make it less insightful. Stage 1, unconscious incompetence, aka you don't know that you don't know and you're oddly confident about it. This stage comes with 2 flavors of delusion. The slope of ignorance, this is the blissful zone, where someone hasn't even considered they might suck. Not because they're humble, they're just unaware. Confidence doesn't even enter the chart yet because the skill isn't on their radar. The peak of Mount Stupid, they've just learned a little, enough to feel clever, not enough to realize how much they still don't get. And boom, confidence spikes. They're suddenly an expert after reading one article or taking one online course. They think they're good because they don't understand what good truly is. It's not arrogance, it's ignorance wearing a crown. And here is the real issue. The less someone knows, the more the ego works over time to protect them from admitting it. They're not just wrong, they're too clueless to realize it, too proud to question it, and too defensive to learn. So they stay stuck in the loop, polishing their delusions instead of their skills. Stage 2, conscious incompetence, aka you know what you don't know and it's humbling as hell. Taking the slide of awareness, if you dare, you glide down to the valley of despair. This is where the learner finally sees the true scale of what's involved. They realize how much they suck, and this divine realization feels like a slap to their confidence. A friend of mine thought she spoke decent English. She'd picked it up on the job, enough to handle business emails and occasional chats. I never heard her speak, but it seemed to do the trick. Then she took a proper business English course, and then when it hit her, she'd call me in horror every time she realized she'd been missing the most basic things. Misused phrases, broken grammar, unusual pronunciation, let's say worse than unusual mime. She didn't realize how off she was. She went from casually communicating to second-guessing every word. And then she stopped speaking altogether, too embarrassed to even try. It took months of persistent study and swallowing her pride to rebuild that skill. She speaks again now, but much slower, and her confidence still in recovery. But that's how real learning works. It breaks you before it builds you. Stage 3, conscious competence. You know how to do it, but it still takes effort. At this stage, your confidence starts creeping back the slope of enlightenment as your skills improve. But here is the thing. You can do it. You just have to think about it. It's like getting the hang of a new skill. It's better, but it still requires focus and effort to execute. You aren't coasting yet, but you're definitely moving in the right direction. Stage 4, unconscious competence. You do it without thinking, and it feels effortless. Welcome to the plateau of adequacy, where you've nailed it. You don't just know how to do it, you do it without even thinking. Confidence here is solid. You know you are good at what you do, it feels smooth. It feels natural. At this point, you are in the zone, effortlessly executing the skill without even having to consciously think about it. Ironically, experts here often underestimate their ability because what's easy for them feels like it should be easy for everyone. That's the curse of knowledge. And here is what all comes down to. It's not just about knowing things. It's about knowing how you think. Owning that you don't know. And by the way, there is a video about how to learn to unlearn and knowing where your competence actually is.
Unbound mind.
Socrates said it centuries ago, I know that I know nothing. And yet, here we are, proud CEOs, armchair experts, and lemon juice bank robbers, all because incompetence breeds overconfidence. Overconfidence blocks learning, and blocked learning keeps us stuck in incompetence. So maybe, just maybe, it's time to stop pretending we know and start actually understanding instead. So, why don't we?
Unbound Mind.
Overconfidence bias, planning fallacy, and Einstellung effect.
Now, don't get me wrong, low self-confidence doesn't help leadership. It can turn any life into living hell and any office space into a drama. But when that internal mess gets covered up in overconfidence, that becomes a disaster. Imagine a regional retail chain is killing it locally. The CEO is on high. Everything they touch turns to gold. Naturally, they want more gold. Who wouldn't? So what do? Go national. No real market research, no strategic planning, no risk mitigation scenarios. They naturally assume that what worked here will work everywhere. They overestimate customer demand, ignore cultural differences, underestimate local competition and operational complexity. And the result? Stretched thin, sales flop, stores shut, ego bruised, money burned. That's a textbook example of the overconfidence effect. We overestimate our own ability, knowledge, and accuracy of our judgments. It's a general tendency to think we're better than we actually are. Hype-fueled investors chasing trends on social media, they are driving half the market's chaos. Overconfident leaders are 25% more likely to oversimplify problems and screw up the outcomes. 3 out of 4 people think they are great problem solvers. A quarter of them jump to easy fixes and mess up the hard stuff. Because hey, who needs foresight when you've got ego, right? But wait, there is more. Have you ever heard of a planning fallacy? This is where we underestimate time, effort, and cost, and wildly overestimate anticipated benefits. Such as 40% of corporate change initiatives fail due to overconfident superficial tactics, speaking of the geographical rollout. Of course, in real business, many don't plan at all, with or without overconfidence involved. Honestly, not a good idea. And then there's also the Einstellung effect, where we become prisoners of our past solutions. We fall back on what worked before, even when the game has changed. And the more experience we have, the more rigid our decision-making can become. That retail CEO, not just overconfident stuck. They were trapped. Their previous wins shaped a mental model they couldn't break. Instead of adapting, they recycle. Instead of questioning, they assumed. That's the Einstellung trap. Success narrows our perspective, so we confuse rigidity with wisdom.
Unbound Mind.
So, why do smart people fall into it? Often it stems from a lack of awareness of what we don't know. This is the challenging one, but likely I have a solution for you. It can also be fueled by flattering feedback and a desire to maintain a positive self-image. Also because society rewards it. Take marketing jobs, for example. In 90% of cases, companies aren't looking for talent. They're looking for a clone, someone with the exact same industry experience, not transferable skills, not motivation, not the creative capacity to adapt and innovate. Nope. They want a one-trick pony, someone who knows the industry, competitors, and rules from A to Z. The result? Boring products, boring claims, boring innovations. Companies don't have the guts to think outside the box. And marketeers, instead of bold, original thinkers they are meant to be, they become grayscale prisoners, aimlessly marching from one rival to the next, hands tied, brains off. And if that sounds harsh, so be it. This is my alma mater. Also, overconfidence feels like clarity. That's why the trap holds. We believe in our expertise, real or imagined. We cherry-pick ideas that confirm what we already think. We fall for status or perceived superiority, and we love it. We chase action because doing something feels better than sitting in uncertainty. That's just so scary. We trust past wins to guide current choices. We confuse easy answers with truth. And when that happens, overconfidence becomes a curse. We start making superficial decisions, block out doubt, dismiss data, avoid others' perspective. We ignore inconvenient truth, and we tune out anyone who dares to challenge us. I wonder whether any of this sounds familiar. You know, if low self-confidence paralyzes, then overconfidence blinds. And the Einstellung effect makes deep thinking redundant. Altogether, it feels like clarity, but it's a trap, and it's expensive. Next time you're absolutely sure that this is the way to go, that is your red flag. Dig deeper, ask questions, challenge your thinking. Because owning the decision means owning the outcome, and no amount of certainty protects you from consequences.
Unbound mind.
So, here you have it, a psychological minefield mapped. In part 1 of The Illusion of Knowing, we've cracked open the why. Why smart people stay stuck. Why we solve the wrong problems. Why surface thinking kills progress. Recognizing the enemy is step 1, but insight isn't action. And action without insight, that's exactly the mess we're here to clean up. That's why we start with the why, always. But now it's time for the how. How do you actually fix this? How do you break the loop, cut through the noise, and lead strategically instead of reactively? That's what part 2 is for. But don't come expecting cookie-cutter tactics. This isn't about just do this and you'll win formula. It's about understanding the principle behind effective implementation. When you get the why and the system, the tactics, they fall into place. And more importantly, they'll be yours, designed for your context, your strategy, and your business. That's what this is all about, dispelling the illusion of knowing so you can finally own your thinking. I'll see you in part 2.